Test, test, test. Hello there. You choose my most lovely subscribers, frequent viewers, and supporters slash patrons. It's the 15th of March, year 2026. Both at Australian Eastern daylight saving time slash Sydney time and local China Eastern coastal time. Well, since I fear I fear the day of my death due to starvation draws quite nigh, quite near. So it might this live stream might just be the final one. Though I would do whatever that's necessary to find food, to make money, or to earn money. But unfortunately, doing, making a living in year 2026 has unfortunately has unfortunately gotten unfortunately gotten significantly worse as far as I believe, than year 2025 and 24 and so on, so forth. So on and so forth. Yeah. And so that should give you, one more reason, not to procreate, not to reproduce, not to try to replicate your own genes, so that you can, have, so that you can continue your bloodline or leave a legacy, or try to live up to your parents or your grandparents, even great grandparents expectations and society's expectations, blah blah blah. Once you get a taste of of the brink of starvation and extreme level of loneliness and helplessness and um, depression, you will realize, you will soon come to realization of how vain, how meaningless, how useless, these ideas and concepts are, actually are. it's all shit. It's all vain. It's all for vainglory, to say the least. Or at least it's a built-in mechanism, allegedly programmed by God, to ensure that he can get constant and an endless supply of energy source, sources of sources energy capable of capable of sustaining you know God's power and reign and sovereignty, blah blah blah. Since well, after so many years of just non-stop tribulation and afflictions, and a huge a, a disappointments with my life, with the highly you know a disproportional ratio um, in between the amount of hard work I put in to improve my own life, and the the amount of rewards that I actually get and got to reap. So yes, it is indeed a huge a disappointment, huge disappointment. And though yes, I did mention mention lowering your standards, not lowering your standards, but lowering your your expectations on others, on specifically on other people, and even on God. But instead, focus more on yourselves. Focus on on lowering, on finding ways to lower your to lower to mitigate, to mitigate, to alleviate, to assuage, to soothe your your pain, the level of the pain and afflictions you are currently suffering. So and honestly, I don't really you know you expect a lot of you to to come and and watch this live stream, live, in real time. So maybe I would try to keep this message brief, you know without um without um talking too much about in-depth knowledge and thoughts pertaining to life, pertaining specifically pertaining to my life, pertaining to my own life experience. Yeah. But indeed, yes, it is indeed doom and gloom. All I now pretty much, all I wish for is a swift, painless, and a dignified death. And maybe even that, has maybe even that has also has um uh, maybe even that has also become a luxury, since I don't even have the strength to actually commit the act of suicide, truly doom and gloom. Yes, and yes, and probably yes, I indeed made a grave mistake, by by not paying another visit to my grandma to my grandpa during the Chinese holiday, during the Chinese New Year holiday, just about a month ago, you know since I might be able to get some some red packets, but I was since I was feeling so unwell, both mentally and physically so unwell, back then, just also so exhausted, too exhausted, to deal with. I beg your pardon. To deal with people, including you know my relatives, blah blah blah. I just don't want to, you know, I don't want to, I guess I just don't even at the present moment, I don't, I just don't want to uh, dignify, you know, their, 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 how should I put it? Their expectations for me to pay them a visit. Just drop in, just to say hi, blah blah blah. Since I how should I put it? I just well, specifically, I don't really feel that close, to the other uncle of mine and the other aunt of mine. I just I didn't really spend much time with them, back then, during my earlier childhood. And yes, although I did spend some other time with with another cousin. We played we played we played some video games together. Such as Hitman 2, Silent Assassin, and blah blah blah, and not. But that I don't suppose that built much of a solid foundation for love or bonding or blah blah or whatnot. So yeah, it's just doom and gloom. And yeah, I won't say I had some I won't say I had some uh, a decent quality of sleep last night, since I left my the light of my bedroom on pretty much you know the entire night. And but still, yes, I did get some sleep. Like I said, I won't call it I won't call it a sleep of a decent quality, blah blah blah. But at least I get some sleep. And yes, I did have yes, I did have breakfast. And my dinner yesterday, though I skipped lunch. Well, most chiefly due to due to lack of funds, lack of money. But I did, yes, maybe I still have some some cash, some coins that I suppose will will suffice to buy me another another row of Chinese baked pancakes. um and that's pretty much all. That's about it, I guess. Unless some miracle happens, which at least at the moment seems highly unlikely. I will likely starve. In a couple of days, I would likely starve. Starve to death in a couple of days. And yeah, whatever. But whatever the outcome, just you know let's assume the worst. Let's assume the worst comes. um you know at least I have at least I have um uh at least I have defied I have defied until the end. Well, though still the end has not come yet. The end has yet to come, but I believe it will come soon. So don't pity me, but instead, rejoice. Or just watch watch the video, and enjoy the remaining time of your life, respectively, from afar. you know while you also keep an eye on the 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 developing situation around you across the globe, whatever that matters to you. um yeah. So what else? you know yeah, just sometimes there isn't really much to say, you know but instead, let silence be your answer. Weaponize your silence, your inertness, your idleness. Let those that stand to benefit worry or worry about the whole matter. Let those that have their parts or have their stakes invested in the whole creation. Let them worry. Throw your throw your hot throw your hot yan or hot your hot throw your hot potatoes potatoes to them. Yeah. And yeah, what else have I got to say? I just never I just never expected to end up like this, to meet to suffer from such a pathetic outcome, in which I have to starve to death, in which I have to face such, you know, in which I have to face two brutal choices, you know, whether to surrender or to just, um, choose to choose to choose honor and dignity and masculinity by refusing to cooperate with that wicked woman, you know, and receive no help whatsoever, you know. So yeah, don't fall victim to life. Don't hold such, don't um don't think for a second that, oh, life is so great, life is so beautiful, I'm grateful to be alive. you know well, I try to imitate the realist being's voice, but it seems that I've done a terrible job. you know yeah, I don't suppose I'm in such a good shape of trying to remake, or trying to remake you know some of his um, some of his uh, uh, some of his removed videos, such as tired of religious fools, ready to die, blah blah blah. Though I don't feel so ready to at least stop. But regardless, yeah, let's see if I can do another 50 afterwards, after I conclude this live filming session. But yeah, it's just, you know, as an old saying goes, misery loves company. Indeed, misery does love company. What else? Yeah, so again, don't fall victim to life. Don't, don't succumb to the, to the lust, to the, to the will, to the urge, to the urge of procreating or trying to, don't succumb to the urge of wanting to prolong or continue your legacy by 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 procreating, by by popping out children. Since you will inevitably subject them to horrors, to terrors, to an endless need for food, for shelter, for love, for for companionship, for fun, for entertainment, blah blah blah. You know, and that by so doing, you are doing not nothing but feeding the ruthless meat grinder, you know that lusts for control, that lusts for for terrorizing humanity with death, with suffering, with fear, with a bunch of other horrible and brutal miseries. Yeah, since both our mind, both our bodies just keep craving things, craving attention, love, so-called love and intimacy, and slash sex slash the the desire to keep ourselves entertained, and blah blah blah. It is horrible. In a nutshell, I just can't think of anything else more horrifying than bringing more innocent souls to this realm of horrifying horror, dehumanizing abuse, overwhelming terror, and unscrupulous rapist abuse, torture, and torment, and afflictions. Yeah. And they even have the audacity to ask why nobody wants to work, why nobody wants to work anymore, why nobody wants to have children, why nobody wants to date, why most of Gen Z and millennials no longer no longer um, believe in love, in companionship, in in the in the idea of starting a family, blah blah blah. They already they know the answer. They already they already know the answer more than the question, and they still you know they still maintain they still do everything they can to maintain the facade of love and peace, and still the facade of stability, the facade of you know care, and it's just freaking it's freaking laughable, also pathetic and revolting, to say the least. They in other words, they are hy- hypocrites, freaking disgraceful, um and unscrupulous hypocrites. Yeah. you know with whom I will never ever want to get involved. you know but it is just how this how the world works, how how Satan and God run Lush Farm, this realm of dehumanizing torture, unscrupulous rapist abuse, and overwhelming terror. Yeah, so at this point, just laugh at, try to treat everything in life as a laughable comedy, and laugh at the whole creation, laugh at at the whole planet, laugh at the whole humanity and the whole universe, if you will. Yeah, but yeah, it's just horrifying, yeah, to say the least. But regardless, yeah, still nobody turns up to the live stream, so I guess I should end conclude this live stream, if you don't mind. Yeah, so until next time, if God's still willing, if I don't starve to death, stay out of trouble, and if you still can, stay far from weak, and be honorable, and defy defy this whole evil creation until the end. Cheers and goodbye, and a possible, fairly likely farewell.